Hello friends, in this video we are going to start with a very important topic from GATE point of view, that is Fourier transform. Let us begin. To talk about Fourier transform, we should first of all conclude a Fourier series, because a conclusion from Fourier series and certain modifications in Fourier series, we will see how Fourier series gets turned into Fourier transform automatically, and that gives you the exact flow and the point from which you should actually start learning Fourier transform. Let's see how it begins. So assume that we have this type of square wave which is periodic in nature, and we know that when we talk about periodic signals and when we do its frequency analysis, we go for Fourier series, and that's what we kept learning in few last video lectures. Am I right? We were learning Fourier series. So for this, we have Fourier series. So preferably we go for a complex exponential Fourier series, because a graphical representation of the same is quite easier as compared to other Fourier series types. So now I'm going to give you a frequency components of this x of t. So let's have a CK plot for this. We know that this is popularly known as figure 2. So when we discussed Fourier series, I'm sure you're watching those videos in sequence, because sequence matters in this subject. So this is popularly known as figure 2, and we know that for figure 2 being half wave symmetric signal, we know that DC value is always equal to 0, and you know that at k equal to 0 we get DC value equal to 0. Of course, for a fundamental component, that is at k equal to 1, we get certain amplitude. So let me assume this much amplitude I'm getting at k equal to 1, known as a fundamental component. Then at k equal to 2, we get again certain amplitude, but the lesser than the fundamental component. Then furthermore, as k keeps on increasing, this amplitude goes on reducing. Further, if I go for k equal to 4, I'll get even the lesser amplitude. So these are general CK plot we used to have. And we know that when it comes to a magnitude plot, it always satisfies a even condition. Therefore, even at k equal to -1, we get same as that of k equal to 1 component. Then at k equal to -2, we get same as k equal to 2 component. So I'll be writing this, and same thing will keep on even repeating at negative frequencies. And of course, those k values are showing you frequencies. That is, DC component means at omega equal to 0. K equal to 1 means it is a fundamental component, and fundamental component means it is omega naught. At k equal to 2, I'm getting frequency component at twice of omega naught. 3 indicates 3 omega naught. 4 indicates 4 omega naught. So -1 indicates minus omega naught, and similarly -2 indicates -2 omega naught, and so on. So what I meant to say over here is, this much of amplitude I'm getting at fundamental frequency. At second harmonic, I'm getting lesser amplitude. At third harmonic, I'm getting even lesser amplitude, and this is a tendency. As soon as you go on increasing frequency, the component value keeps on decreasing. So this is what we have learned in Fourier series. In fact, this is what we called as a frequency spectrum. So this is called as a frequency spectrum. Now what I'm planning here, the value of t, I'm talking about a time period t, is equal to 1 second. Please don't forget, what we have in first figure is a time domain information. So this is a time domain information. And what we have in the second figure is a frequency domain information. So to come from time domain to frequency domain, we have used a tool called as Fourier series, because for periodic signal we go for Fourier series, and I told you in introduction lecture of Fourier series that for aperiodic signal we plan for Fourier transform. Why so? Now you will understand in this video. So what I'm planning over here is to increase this time period and to make it 10 seconds. Now, what is going to happen in frequency spectrum? What changes it is going to make in frequency spectrum? Let us see. You know that omega naught, that is a fundamental frequency, is 2 pi by t. We know that 2 pi is constant. So I can say that mathematically omega naught, that is a fundamental frequency, is inversely proportional to time. Means that initially when t was 1 second, now it is furthermore made as 10 seconds. It means, can I say that the value of t is increased? Increase in the value of t furthermore reduces omega naught. Now see to it what is going to happen in frequency spectrum. That is our topic of discussion. In this frequency spectrum, if omega naught reduces, please understand this omega naught is reduced, meaning that even 2 omega naught will also get reduced, 3 omega naught will also get reduced. In fact, you will see that you will get a similar frequency spectrum. The only difference is that now the spacing between these samples reduces. Am I right? So effectively, you'll get this type of frequency spectrum. So initially, whatever frequency spectrum we had now gets converted into another frequency spectrum. That is, I'm trying to tell you now. Again, this is a k axis. This is k equal to 0, k equal to 1, k equal to 2, k equal to 3. This is k equal to -1, k equal to -2, and so on. Of course, at DC component, we have 0. At k equal to 1 means a fundamental component, we had certain amplitude. At k equal to 2, we have lesser amplitude. K equal to 3, this value keeps on decreasing. The similar structure get copied on negative k axis. So we get similar structure here also. So as I said, this is a DC frequency, that is omega equal to 0. K equal to 1 belongs to omega naught. K equal to 2 belongs to 2 omega naught. So now if you compare the frequency spectrum of both, amplitude wise, both the frequency spectrums are exactly same. Meaning that whatever amplitude you were getting at k equal to 1, same amplitude you get k equal to 1 also. But now as you can see, the spacing between two consecutive samples is now reduced. So I repeat, spacing between two consecutive samples keeps on reducing if t increases even further. So imagine, what if I make t equal to 100 seconds? It means again t is increased. If again t is increased, again omega naught reduces. If omega naught reduces, we know that again the spacing between two consecutive sample also reduces. So this is what I have written. If t increases, omega naught reduces. Omega naught reduces means spacing between two consecutive sample reduces in frequency spectrum. So effectively, how frequency spectrum will look like, I'll try to show you roughly. Again, this is k, k0, k1, k2, k3, k-1, k-2. Here we will have k-3 and so on. Again, DC component was 0. So as you see that as soon as t increases, a time period increases, omega naught decreases, spacing between two consecutive samples goes on reducing. So now you can imagine what is going to happen if I assume that the value of t is infinity. Understand? T means a fundamental time period I'm talking about. So let us understand, if t, that is a time period, tends to infinity, then I can say that omega naught, since it is equal to 2 pi by t, because of this formula, I would say that omega naught tends to 0. If t tends to infinity and omega naught tends to 0, you can understand what is going to happen with spacing between two consecutive samples. I would in fact say that there would be absolutely no space between two samples. I repeat, when I say a spacing is reduced to certain extent now, such that you cannot even see a space between two consecutive samples. So can I say that a discrete look-like spectrum will now become a continuous spectrum? So this kind of structure that you see over here was discrete structure just because there is still some space between two consecutive samples. Imagine when t tends to infinity and when I say omega naught tends to 0, you can see the spacing between two samples absolutely does not exist. They come so closer to each other that you cannot even identify or you cannot still differentiate between two different samples. They look the same or they look as if now the discrete structure does not even exist. It looks like a continuous structure. Therefore, now we'll have this kind of structure. So this is now becoming a continuous structure. Am I right? So, and from this point, our Fourier transform is going to come in picture. Let's see how. So now we have assumed that t is tending to infinity and omega naught is tending to 0. So under this assumption, we are discussing a Fourier series coefficient formula. If you remember, it was Cn, which was 1 by t, integrating over a time period x of t e to the power minus j k omega naught t dt. Is that right? Now, when I say integrating over a time period, this can be integration from 0 to t, or it can be integrating over minus t by 2 to t by 2. Is that right? So right now, for some reason, I'm going for this type of lower limit and upper limit. So let me substitute over here. Cn is equal to 1 by t. T is now changing from minus t by 2 to plus t by 2. X of t e to the power minus j k omega naught t dt. Is that right? Since we believe that now t is tending to infinity, I would specify over here as limit t is approaching to infinity. Now what I'm going to shift this t over here. In that case, it becomes t times Cn, which is equal to, now the lower limit is minus t by 2, upper limit is t by 2. Try to understand, when I say t is tending to infinity, means it is from minus infinity to plus infinity now. So just substitute value of t equal to infinity. So what we have, the rest of the integration term as x of t dot e to the power minus j k omega naught t dt. Is that right? I can further write it like this, that still limit t is approaching to infinity, t dot cn is equal to integrating over minus infinity to infinity, we have x of t e to the power minus j k omega naught t dt. So we know that when t is tending to infinity, omega naught is tending to 0. Therefore, I'm going to substitute k omega naught as omega. Now the question is why I'm doing so. You know that when time period is approaching to infinity and when omega naught is tending to 0, we know that a frequency spectrum which was initially looking like a discrete structure now become continuous because a spacing between two consecutive samples in frequency spectrum is now reduced to that level that it is no more discrete structure. It becomes absolutely continuous structure. So when it is a continuous, we cannot write k omega naught. We should write omega. But still, students will have doubt why it is so. So I'll explain you. If you remember, suppose you have this kind of x of t, which is a continuous time structure. If you pass it through the samples or a sampling switch, then it becomes discrete. Am I right? So with the help of hardware, you know very well how do you convert x of t to a discrete structure. But mathematically, let me remind you, what you do is you actually replace t equal to nts. In that case, now x of t becomes x of nts, where ts stands for time spacing between two samples. I repeat, ts stands for time spacing between two samples. Let us assume if ts is equal to 1, in that case you write x of n, and this is what we called as a discrete time signal, x of n. I hope you remember this. So when you are going from a continuous time to discrete time, or in general continuous domain to discrete domain, you replace t to nts. Is that right? So now you are going from discrete to continuous. Why you are going from discrete to continuous domain? Just because our t is approaching to infinity, our omega naught is tending to 0. So we know that spacing between two consecutive samples is reduced to now that extent that it is not a discrete structure anymore, it has become continuous. So when I am saying that it has become discrete to continuous, I should move from k omega naught to another notation, that is omega. Is that right? So now let us do that. On left hand side, I'm talking about this step now. We have limit t tending to infinity, t dot cn, which is equal to integrating over minus infinity to infinity x of t e to the power. Now you see that k omega naught should be replaced with omega. So it becomes minus j omega t dt. Now let me tell you the integral now. The integral now you are talking about, and the one which is highlighted, is what we called as a Fourier transform formula. I repeat, it is called as a Fourier transform formula. So after solving this, you will always get x, which is function of omega, which is function of omega, or sometimes x of omega is shown as x of j omega. Please don't get confused between the notations. You can write it as x of omega also, you can write it as x of j omega also. It is one and the same thing, meaning that this is what we called as a Fourier transform formula. So let me rewrite this. On left hand side, what we had, let us keep it as it is. So what we had is limit t is approaching to infinity, t dot cn is now simply equal to x of omega, where x of omega is nothing but a Fourier transform of x of t. And now this is called as relation between Fourier series and Fourier transform. So this is popularly known as a relation between Fourier series and Fourier transform. So what we had on right hand side is x of omega. So let me remind you what was x of omega. X of omega is integral over minus infinity to infinity x of t e to the power minus j omega t dt. So this is the formula for Fourier transform. So Fourier transform helps you to get x of t to x of omega. So Fourier transform helps you to transform your x of t to x of omega. Remember, x of omega is also known as x of j omega. It is one and the same thing. So this is what we called as a Fourier transform. Yes, of course, there is a concept called as a inverse Fourier transform. So Fourier transform will help you to go from time domain to frequency domain, and inverse Fourier transform is the another tool. As the name implied, it is inverse Fourier transform. It means once you get into Fourier transform, that is a frequency domain, then there is a chance that you can roll back to time domain with the help of the another tool, that is inverse Fourier transform. So if Fourier transform helps you to go from time domain to frequency domain, inverse Fourier transform will help you to go from frequency domain to time domain. So x of omega or x of j omega. If you want to get back to your original time domain, you can use inverse Fourier transform. So formula listed over here is Fourier transform formula. Let us go for inverse Fourier transform formula. Of course, output of Fourier transform is x of omega and output of inverse Fourier transform will be x of t. So now we will have x of t, which is equal to integrating over again minus infinity to infinity. So what we had over here is x of t. Now we will have x of omega. What we have over here is e to the power minus j omega t. Just write positive e to the power positive j omega t. And since this was function of t, so we have dt over here. But now this is function of omega, we will have d omega here along with the extra term 1 upon 2 pi. And why this extra term has come, we will understand it later. So I'll give you a justification of this extra term, that is 1 upon 2 pi also. So this is the formula for inverse Fourier transform. So now you have understood what is meant by Fourier transform, how Fourier series got converted into Fourier transform. So what we had is this kind of square wave, if you remember. And from this we have a time period. Imagine this time period is tending to infinity. If this time period, let's say, if tends to infinity, you can imagine what type of square wave you will have. Do you think will it be periodic? Do you think even a second cycle will come? This is the second cycle. So I would say yes, second cycle will come when t is approaching to infinity. So after infinity time, second cycle will come. So please understand, when I say second cycle will come, but when t tends to infinity, it means second cycle will never come. If I say second cycle will never come, it is no more periodic. So for a periodic signal, when t is approaching to infinity, a periodic signal gets automatically converted into a periodic signal. So a periodic signal will naturally get converted into a periodic signal. And I told you, whenever a signal is a periodic signal, there is no chance that even we will talk about Fourier series. We only talk about a Fourier transform when it comes to a periodic signal. So I'm sure with this explanation, the motive of Fourier transform is clear to you. You know very well how Fourier series got converted into Fourier transform. Also, you have understood what is the formula for inverse Fourier transform. Remember, Fourier transform helps you to go from time domain to frequency domain. That is, to transform x of t to x of omega. And inverse Fourier transform is the another tool which will help you to go from frequency domain back to time domain. That is x of omega to x of t. Please remember, x of omega and x of j omega is one and the same thing. Now, we will see what is the condition or what is the constraint on x of t so that its Fourier transform is possible. So even though we know that it has to be specifically a periodic signal, then a Fourier transform is possible. But even there are extra constraint on x of t. If it is satisfied, then we can say that a Fourier transform does exist for a given signal. So let us understand that criteria. Understanding that criteria is very, very important. So of course, for Fourier transform, what is always given to you is x of t. Therefore, a condition is imposed on x of t only. So condition says integrating over minus infinity to infinity mod of x of t dt should be less than infinity. And you know what? In mathematics, we know that having an integration is nothing but having area under the curve. It means that the given x of t should be absolutely integrable, or area under the curve of x of t should be less than infinity. So it should be finite. So this condition is mathematically interpreted as x of t must be integrable. And further, if you think in detail, you know that having an integration means calculating area under the curve. So you can also say that area under the curve of x of t must be finite. Is that right? So now we will see x of t, and by observing x of t we will see that whether it is integrable or not. If it is integrable, then 100% its Fourier transform does exist. But then if this condition is not satisfied, then still we are going to check whether a Fourier transform is possible by simply applying the formula, because Fourier transform formula is available to us, right? Because x of omega is integrating from minus infinity to infinity x of t e to the power minus j omega t dt. This is a standard formula we have. So even though this condition is not satisfied, still we can apply the formula and we can check whether the Fourier transform does exist or not. And sometimes it happens, even though the given condition is not satisfied, still Fourier transform does exist. So let me tell you, this condition is called as a sufficient condition, but this is not a necessary condition. Try to understand what is the difference between sufficient condition and necessary condition. When I say it is a sufficient condition, it means if this condition is satisfied, I can tell you, I can bet on this that Fourier transform does exist. For sure, Fourier transform does exist. But if this condition is not satisfied, then I'm not 100% sure whether the Fourier transform is existing or not. I hope you are clear with this. So this condition is called as a sufficient condition, but this condition is not called as unnecessary condition, right? So I would keep a note of it. So please understand this point is very, very important. If the given condition, so I'm talking about this condition, if this condition is not satisfied, then Fourier transform may or may not exist for the given x of t. So we'll see how. So I'll give you certain x of t graphically, and you have to identify what do you think whether the given condition will satisfy, and do you think that even then the Fourier transform does exist. We'll see how. So you know that this is popularly known as a gate pulse. So do you think that it has got a finite area? Area under the curve is infinity or finite? Of course, area under the curve is finite for this. It means, can I say that the given condition is satisfied? So I would say a required condition is satisfied. And what do you think? If the required condition is satisfied, do you think that Fourier transform will exist? Then, as I said, if the condition is satisfied, if it is absolutely integrable, means area under the curve for a given signal is finite, then 100% Fourier transform will exist. Am I right? So even for this kind of signal, so this is also a finite signal, meaning that area under the curve is finite. That is, it is absolutely integrable. Required condition is again satisfied. Fourier transform will definitely exist. So now you have to identify what this. What do you think? Do you think that area under the curve for the given signal is finite? Do you think that a Fourier transform will exist for this? Then of course even del of t is absolutely integrable, because if you know, the standard formula says integrating over minus infinity to infinity, del of t dt is always 1. It has got unit area, and that's the reason why it is also called as a unit impulse. Am I right? So of course this is again satisfying the required condition. It is absolutely integrable. Yes, then Fourier transform will exist. So now the next signal is called as a ramp signal. What do you think? This ramp signal is satisfying the required condition? Then answer is no, it is not satisfying the required condition. Now whether a Fourier transform exists or does not exist, that is yet to be decided. So if the required condition is not satisfied, as I said, Fourier transform may exist or may not exist. So I'll take another example. This is known as U of t signal, a unit step signal, if you remember. So what do you think? Area under the curve for U of t is infinity or it is less than infinity? Then again, do you understand that this is going up to infinity? This is continuously 1. So if you try to integrate it, again you will see that the required condition is failed. Area under the curve for U of t is infinity. So even we will decide whether the Fourier transform does exist or not. I'll take more examples. You know what? This signal is popularly known as a signum function, indicated as SGN of t. So even here I'll make two columns, that is a required condition and whether the Fourier transform does exist or not. So what do you feel? When I'm talking about U of t, this is going up to infinity. Even over here, this is also going up to infinity, that is a positive infinity, and this minus 1 in fact started from minus infinity only. So if you try to get area under the curve for a signum function, again it will be infinity, and therefore again a required condition is not satisfied, right? Let's see whether a Fourier transform does exist or not. So for a unit step signal, I would say yes, Fourier transform does exist. But since the required condition is not satisfied, we will use indirect method to get a Fourier transform. So what is a direct method? Direct method means to use a direct formula, that is integral over minus infinity to infinity x of t e to the power minus j omega t dt. Even for signum function, even though the required condition is not satisfied, I am telling you Fourier transform still does exist. But since the required condition is not satisfied, we use indirect method. So I'll take one more signal, then I'll get back to our original explanation. So I have this kind of exponential signal. Again, the required condition is not satisfied, and we will see whether the Fourier transform does exist or not. So if you remember, this is what we called as e to the power minus at dot u of t signal, am I right? So looking at the signal, I'm sure now you are capable to tell me what is the expression for this. Or even though you don't know this expression, it doesn't matter. You can at least identify whether the area under the curve is finite or not. Of course, area under the curve is finite. Therefore, it is going to satisfy the required condition. That is, area under the curve is finite. In that case, 100% Fourier transform will exist. Am I right? Now let's talk about the two figures which I have left, and I have not told you whether the Fourier transform existing or not. So here, Fourier transform does not exist. Even here, Fourier transform does not exist. So now, student, I'm sure you will have this question. In case of unit step, even though the required condition is not satisfied, so you are telling that Fourier transform does exist, but for that purpose, indirect method needs to be imposed. Even in case of signum function, you have seen that area under the curve is infinity. Required condition is not satisfied. Still, I'm claiming that you can still use indirect method and you can get a Fourier transform. Then why not for two signals specified over here, which is a ramp signal, your required condition is not satisfied, and still you are telling me that a Fourier transform cannot be obtained even by using indirect method. So let us understand the reason why. For that, you should know what is meant by bounded and unbounded signal, and I'm sure you remember that when I have explained you stable and unstable systems, there I have given you a numerous examples where I have explained you how to identify bounded signals and unbounded signals. And if you don't remember, let me remind you, you have to observe a signal and you have to see anywhere with respect to a time whether the amplitude is reaching to infinity. even though for a given signal, if amplitude is nowhere reaching to infinity, then such signal is called as a bounded signal. Else, at a particular time, if you see that the amplitude keeps on increasing, and at a certain time it is reaching to infinity, then a particular signal is known as a unbounded signal. So now let me observe and let me tell for figure number 1. Is this bounded or unbounded? Of course it is bounded, because there is no chance that amplitude of this signal is reaching to infinity. Everywhere you see that amplitude is finite, so this is bounded. Second signal, even this is bounded, because amplitude is nowhere going to infinity. What about third signal? It is bounded or unbounded? So when I'm talking about magnitude, you know that del of t is always infinity at t equal to 0, and del of t is 0 when t is not equal to 0. Is that right? When you write del of t equal to 1 for t equal to 0, that 1 is not magnitude, that 1 is an area. So magnitude wise, when I'm saying, or amplitude wise when I'm claiming, this is unbounded. So this is unbounded. Next, this is also unbounded. Why unbounded? Because this approaching to infinity. What about u of t? This is 100% bounded. What about signum function? This is also bounded, because maximum amplitude you will see +1, minimum amplitude you will see -1, and that's it. In fact, only two amplitudes are possible, 1 and -1. Third amplitude is also possible at t equal to 0. If you remember, signum function is always 0, but again, that's not a point of our discussion. Bottom line, this is bounded. Signum function is bounded for sure. Now, this exponential signal which I have drawn over here, in fact, it is known as a parabolic signal. This is unbounded, because this is approaching to infinity, so this is unbounded. And what about this signal? This is bounded or unbounded? As you can see, it started from 1. Maximum amplitude in this signal is 1, and a minimum amplitude, then it is reaching to 0. Then of course this is also bounded. Now try to understand. If the given signal is bounded, listen to me very carefully. If the given signal is bounded and required condition is also satisfied, Fourier transform will exist. So you can just observe this everywhere. If the given signal is bounded as well as the required condition is satisfied, Fourier transform will exist. So as you can see, we have two examples. Bounded condition is satisfied, required condition is also satisfied, Fourier transform will definitely exist. Is that right? In case, try to understand, in case if the signal is bounded, I'm talking about this, if the signal is bounded, but if the required condition is not satisfied, listen to me very carefully. The required condition is not satisfied, but still signal is bounded, then we have indirect method. Then we have indirect method and Fourier transform will exist. So if required condition is not satisfied, at least the given signal must be bounded. In that case, definitely by using indirect method, you can have a Fourier transform. We have one more example for this. The given signal was bounded, but required condition wasn't satisfied. So if the required condition is not satisfied, at least given signal must be bounded. Then only we can use indirect method and we can get a Fourier transform. But here, if you see, the required condition is not satisfied. Listen to me very carefully. Required condition is not satisfied. Then at least the signal should be bounded. But here, signal is unbounded, and therefore Fourier transform does not exist. Is that right? Here we have one more example. The required condition is not satisfied, then at least the given signal must be bounded, but here we have unbounded, and therefore again Fourier transform does not exist. Am I right? Okay. If the required condition is satisfied, then even though the signal is bounded or unbounded, it doesn't matter. If the required condition is satisfied, it should give you Fourier transform for sure. So let us summarize what we have done. So I'll put it in a single table and then you will understand what I mean to say, the overall conclusion for this. When I'm writing over here required condition, it means I'm talking about this condition, that is integrating over minus infinity to infinity mod of x of t dt must be less than infinity. That is, the given function must be integrable, or given function should have a finite area under the given curve. then I would declare whether Fourier transform does exist or not. A tick mark will say Fourier transform does exist. A cross mark will say Fourier transform does not exist. So let us conclude. If the given signal is bounded and the required condition is satisfied, there is absolutely no problem. Fourier transform will does exist. Second, still the given signal is bounded again, but this time required condition is not satisfied. That is, area under the curve is not finite, in fact infinite. In that case, still Fourier transform will exist, but then you have to make use of indirect method. Is that right? Third, if the signal is unbounded, even though the required condition is satisfied, then there is no problem. Fourier transform will exist because we know that primarily we go for checking required condition. If it is absolutely integrable, there is absolutely no problem to have a Fourier transform. Fourth, and the last condition, if the given signal is unbounded and the required condition is not satisfied, then Fourier transform does not exist for such signal. So as I said, even though the required condition is not satisfied, at least the given signal has to be bounded, then Fourier transform will exist, but for that purpose you cannot use the formula, so you have to use some indirect method. So what is indirect method? Yes, we'll understand in the next video. If the required condition is satisfied even though the signal is unbounded, your Fourier transform does exist, meaning that the first criteria we must see whether it is absolutely integrable or not. If the given signal is absolutely integrable, irrespective whether the signal is bounded or unbounded, Fourier transform does exist. But if the required condition is not satisfied, at least the given signal must be bounded, then only Fourier transform does exist. But for that purpose, you have to use indirect method. If the signal is unbounded as well as required condition is not satisfying, there is no chance that you will have a Fourier transform. So I'm sure now with this discussion, you got enough idea what is Fourier transform. So this was just an introductory lecture to Fourier transform. We are still going to get into detail of Fourier transform. Thank you.